Welcome to Mother's Revenge, where heartfelt stories touch your soul and may even bring you to tears. At Thanksgiving, my sister mocked me for still being single. I said, "I am married." The room froze as I showed proof. She had hidden every invite. The turkey was dry. Of course it was. My mother could never get the time perfect, but no one ever criticized her, since I was the only one who received criticism in our family. "Michael, could you please pass the cranberry sauce?" My sister Amber's voice was dripping with syrupy sweetness, which she had honed over 36 years as the beloved kid. Her diamond engagement ring reflected the light as she stretched across the table, nearly blinding me with its ostentation. I handed her the sauce without commenting. It had been 16 months since I had last sat at this table, and I could immediately recall why I had avoided it. "So, Amber's wedding was absolutely spectacular," Mom said, embarking on what had to be the 14th review of the event I had not attended. "The flowers alone cost more than most people's cars and the venue," she went on. "That country club has a 4-year waiting list, but Amber's husband, has connections. Caleb knows people everywhere," Amber said, clutching her husband's arm. He grinned, that politician's smile which he had presumably perfected in the mirror. "It is one of the perks of being a successful litigation attorney." I sliced into my dry turkey without saying anything. This is the game we played. They talked at me, not to me, and I was supposed to sit there and take it all in like an emotional punching bag wrapped in Christmas sweaters. My dad cleared his throat. "Michael, the ceremony was amazing. You truly missed something special." "I am sure it was lovely," I said, my tone calm. "Lovely." My mother's fork clattered on her plate. "It was the wedding of the century. Everyone who mattered in this town was present, including the Parkers Harrisons and Mayor Bennett." Amber smiled wider. "We had 350 guests. The response rate was fantastic. Almost everyone we invited arrived." I drank a drink of wine while waiting. A trap was being laid. I could feel it. After 25 years of being disappointed, I recognized the pattern. "Speaking of weddings," Amber remarked, her tone turning to the condescending tone she saved for me. "When are you going to settle down, Michael? You are not growing any younger, you know." There it was. Mom interrupted before I could answer. "He's been dating her for 5 years now. What is her name again? Brian. Mark. Jessica," I said gently. "Right. Jessica. What is she doing again? Something about computers." "She is a software engineer at Google." Amber laughed, making a tinkling sound like broken glass. "Oh, that is correct. The IT woman. Does she even have a suit?" Caleb laughed politely at his wife's joke. My father stared at his plate with deep focus, as he often did when the discourse went harsh. He never took part in the attacks, yet he never stopped them either. In some ways, his quiet hurt more than their words. "When is the big day anyway?" Amber continued, encouraged by her audience. "Is she dragging her feet? Women can tell when a man is desperate. You know it turns them off." I cautiously placed down my fork. My heart pounded, but my hands remained firm. This was it. The moment I had been dreading and expecting for 9 months. "Actually, I had my wedding already," I informed them. The total quiet that fell over the table allowed me to hear the grandfather clock ticking in the corridor. 4 faces looked at me with varied degrees of shock. Amber's mouth had literally dropped open. "You what?" Mom finally succeeded. "I was married 9 months ago, June 14th to be precise." "That is impossible," Amber said. "You did not. We would have." "You got invitations," I said calmly, reaching up my wine glass. "All of you did." My father discovered his voice. "Michael, we never got an invitation. We would have come if we had received them." I took out my phone, sliding my fingers across the screen with practiced accuracy. "Let me show you something." I had these screenshots for months waiting for this precise time. The first one displayed the certified postal tracking information. 6 items, 6 addresses, and all signed for on April 24th. Do you see this? I turned the phone to my father. This is a signature confirmation. Someone at this address signed all 6 invites. I focused closely on the signature line. The scroll was obviously Amber's. My sister's face lost its color. That could be anything, Mom said quickly, but her voice faltered. I swiped to the next screenshot. This is an email confirmation from the stationery company. Custom invitations were bought in February and delivered in April. And here, another swipe, is my credit card statement which shows I paid for Priority Mail Express with signature confirmation to guarantee they came soon. Amber, my father said quietly, but there was hardness beneath. Did you sign for the letter intended for your mother and me? I do not recall. Maybe I... Amber's demeanor was breaking like old paint. Let me refresh your memory. I was amazed at how calm I sounded, given how fast my heart was beating. April 24th was a Tuesday. You stopped by early to drop off Mom's birthday present before departing for the conference in Dallas. You offered to get the mail while you were here. How can you remember that? Caleb demanded, his legal instincts taking over to protect his wife. Because I contacted Mom that afternoon to check if she got the invitation. She stated that no mail had arrived other than some catalogs. That seemed weird to me given that the tracking showed delivery at 10:32 a.m. When I studied the signature later, I recognized Amber's handwriting right away. Amber's face had changed from white to crimson. You had me investigated, she snapped. I phoned the post office, I replied. Hardly the FBI. I took another drink of wine, thankful that years of drama lessons in high school had taught me how to project confidence that I did not really have. But you still have not responded to Dad's question. Have you signed for our mail? This is ridiculous, Amber said, standing quickly. I do not have to sit here and be accused. Sit down. My dad's voice cracked like a whip. I had never heard him use that tone before. Amber sat. He looked at me, his expression confused and even wounded. Why are you not telling us? Even if we had missed the invites, you may have phoned. This was the question I had been preparing for. I had practiced it in therapy for weeks before agreeing to attend the dinner. I did call, I said, my voice calm, several times. The first time was May 4th, following 4 weeks of radio silence. Mom, you said you were busy preparing Amber's engagement party and would call me back. You did not. Mom opened her lips to complain, but I persisted. I phoned again on May 11th, got voicemail, and left a message that I was frightened since the wedding was just 6 weeks away, and I had not heard back from anybody. Nobody phoned back. I opened up my call log. I have been backing up my phone records for months, just for this time. On May 18th, I phoned Dad's mobile and got voicemail. On May 20th, I texted the family group chat, which I now realize I am no longer a part of. I contacted the house line 3 times on May 25th. On May 29th, we issued an email to everyone. We never got an email, she asserted, because Amber had access to the family email account and she deleted it. I stared at my sister, who had become extremely motionless, exactly as she had erased the one I sent in April shortly after mailing the invites. You cannot prove that, Amber muttered. I retrieved the email account activity log. Jessica showed me how to check it. It turns out that if you were the one who created the family email account years ago, you still have recovery access, I explained. I gave Amber a direct glance. The email was opened on April 26th at 8:36 p.m. from this house's IP address and then erased forever. Someone did not want anyone else to see it. Caleb's expression had changed from protective to calculating. As a lawyer, he knew exactly what the evidence indicated. Mom murmured for the first time in years, her voice unsure. Why did you not drive over here? If you truly wanted us to attend your wedding, you could have. Mom, I live in Portland. It is a 3-hour drive each way. I drove that route 12 times in the 2 years leading up to my move. How many times did any of you come to me? 0. The number hovered in the air between us. You came for Christmas, Dad answered hesitantly. I drove here for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, Mom and Amber's birthdays, and your birthday. I attended Amber's engagement party, bridal shower, and bachelorette weekend. I changed my work schedule, spent hundreds of dollars on petrol, and slept on that terrible couch bed in the guest room that smelled like mothballs. My voice stayed calm, but I could feel years of stored hurt forming into words. And you know what? Nobody has ever asked me about my life. No one said, "Hey, Michael, how is your work going?" or "Are you pleased in Portland?" It was always about Amber. That is not fair, Amber remarked, but her tone lacked conviction. Is it not? When is my birthday, Amber? She blinked. What? It is my birthday. Which day is it? Silence. It is October 12th, I announced. I turned 36 this year. Nobody called. Nobody texted. I did not even receive an Instagram message. We have all been so busy, Mom explained. I phoned you for your birthday, Mom. As I do every year, I sent you costly flowers from your favorite downtown store. I remembered. Why could not anyone remember me? My dad's shoulders sagged. For the first time, he appeared older. The wedding was beautiful, I said, my voice softening. The rage was drained away, leaving a void in its wake. Jessica and I married at a small church by the seaside. Only us, her parents, her sister, her brother, and perhaps 16 of our closest friends. There were a total of 26 persons, small, private, and lovely. Her mother helped her get into her outfit. When it became evident that my father would not be present, her father led her down the aisle. We exchanged vows that we had written ourselves. And then we had supper at this incredible seafood restaurant overlooking the lake. I picked up a snapshot on my phone of Jessica and me laughing, her veil flying in the coastal air. I appeared cheerful. Actually, I am genuinely delighted. We honeymooned in the Caribbean for 2 weeks, Barbados. It was amazing. I scrolled through photographs of sunsets, beaches, the two of us swimming, hiking, and simply living in a place where no one compared me to anybody else. The best 2 weeks of my life, actually. The wedding and honeymoon. Mom reached for the phone, but I grabbed it back. I am not done. Michael, please, I need to say something. I have needed to say this for years. I glanced at each one in turn. When Amber got engaged, Mom immediately began preparing. Remember you called suppliers the same night? You created an Instagram board. You poured yourself into making her day great. Do you know how that felt? Watching you be so concerned about her happiness while treating mine as an afterthought? We love you both equally, Mom insisted, but the words seemed empty. Do you? Because from where I sit, it is always the Amber show. Amber the cheerleader, Amber the homecoming queen, Amber the sorority president, Amber who graduated summa cum laude, Amber married a wealthy lawyer. Meanwhile, I am simply Michael. Michael has a normal job and a regular existence in Portland where no one ever visits. You never seem to want the same things Amber wanted, Dad replied gently. So that makes me less deserving of your attention and love. I shook my head. I earned a master's degree in environmental science. I work with a charity that is making an impact in water conservation policies. I bought my own condo with no support from anyone. I have constructed a life I am proud of, yet you have never asked me about it. Do you know what I do all day? More silence. I analyze water usage patterns and develop sustainability models for municipalities. I told you it is not glamorous. It will not make me affluent. Last year, however, 45 cities approved laws that I helped to investigate. Millions of people now have improved access to clean water because of the work I did. I am proud of that. I am proud of the life I have built. We are proud of you too, Mom murmured, but she could not meet my gaze. Are you? So why did Amber throw away my wedding invitations? All eyes were on my sister. She had been silent for long minutes, her face changing hues of crimson and white. Now she appeared to be cornered. I did not, she began, then stopped. All right, I took them, but you do not comprehend. Then explain it to me. It was meant to be about my wedding. The words sprang out of her like a champagne cork. For once, I was supposed to be the center of attention without you trying to steal my thunder. I truly laughed. I could not help it. Steal your thunder. Amber, I have been invisible for years. How could I possibly? You always do it, she shot back. You appear humble and modest, but then you do these tricks to make others feel sorry for you. Oh, poor Michael. No one notices him. It is manipulation. I sent invites to my wedding. What is the nature of the manipulation? The timing. Amber snapped now on her feet again, her voice increasing to a volume that likely alarmed the neighbors. My wedding happened in September. You scheduled yours for June. You were attempting to outshine me by getting married first. The logic was so warped that I nearly could not understand it. Amber, you got engaged in January. You had been dating Caleb for 6 years before that. Jessica proposed to me in December, and we planned a summer wedding since we both enjoy the seashore in June. Your wedding date has nothing to do with mine. You have always been jealous of me. Jealous. The word tasted odd. Of what exactly? Of everything I have, she said sharply. The perfect husband, the big house, the respect in this community. I do not want any of that, I said, and I realized I meant it. I do not want a large house in this town. I do not want to be on any charity boards or join a country club. I just wanted my family at my wedding. I wanted you to see me happy. Well, you should have tried harder to make sure we got the invitations, replied my mother, and I could see her taking sides in real time. This was it. The moment when they banded together around Amber rewrote history to make me the villain, and carried on as if this discussion had never occurred. I had watched this movie previously. I knew how it ended. But this time I was given the option of staying for the credits or leaving. You are right, I responded, rising up and grabbing my jacket. I should have tried harder. I should have walked up to your door and made you acknowledge me. But you know what, I am tired of trying. I am weary of being the person who always reaches out, makes an effort, and then gets slammed down for it. Michael, sit down, Dad instructed. We are not done here. We actually are. I came here tonight because a part of me still hoped that you would notice that you missed my wedding, that you would be disappointed you were not there. However, you are not unhappy about missing it. You are unhappy because I am calling Amber out for tossing away the invites. She is your sister, Mom said. Family forgives, does it? Because I have been forgiving you all for years, and I do not think I have ever gotten the same kindness. I pulled on my coat. I forgive you for missing my college graduation because Amber had a sorority function. I forgive you for canceling our Christmas visit the year Jessica and I first started dating because Amber required assistance relocating. I forgive you for spending my birthday helping Amber choose wedding sites. I have done nothing but forgive. Where are you going? Dad inquired. Return to Portland. Back to my marriage, my house, and my life, which I established without any of you. You are being dramatic, Amber remarked, her voice shaking slightly. No, I am done. There is a difference. I started towards the door, but then hesitated. For what it is worth, I truly wanted you there, all of you. Jessica's mother kept asking why my family had not arrived, and I kept making excuses since I could not confess that my own sister had ruined me. Her family felt so awful that they attempted to involve me more, which just made it clear that mine did not care enough to go. Dad responded, We did not know, and I saw a crack in his voice. You could have known. You had my phone number, email, and address. If you had wanted to be a part of my life, you could have been. Amber did not truly prevent it. She basically gave you license to continue doing what you were doing, treating me as if I did not matter. I opened the door. Cold November air swept in, bearing the aroma of withering leaves in the impending winter. Michael, wait, my father said, one hand out. Please let us talk about this. We have been discussing, or rather I have been talking while you have been making excuses. I stepped onto the porch. Do you know what the saddest thing is? Jessica asked if I wanted to invite you to Thanksgiving at her parents' house. Her family wished to meet mine. I said no because I knew you would all be here to celebrate Amber. I came regardless because I felt like I owed you one more opportunity. I was wrong. You cannot just walk away from your family, Mom remarked through the doorway. Watch me. I got halfway to my car when Amber's voice stopped me. Michael, wait. She had hurried out without a coat, holding herself against the cold. For a brief moment, she resembled the girl I had shared a room with for 18 years, the one who used to comb my hair and lend me her books before everything turned into a competition I never committed to participate in. I am sorry, she whispered, and to my amazement, tears streamed down her cheeks. I am very sorry. You are correct. I took the invites. I threw them away. I promised myself I would just keep them hidden until after my wedding and then tell everyone. She swallowed hard. Then it was easy to pretend they never arrived. It was easier than admitting what I had done. Why? I asked. Just tell me why. Because you were always the good one, she said, her voice breaking. Everyone always says that. Michael is really brilliant. Michael is extremely committed. Michael does not require all of that care, but I needed it. I needed to feel exceptional, and the only way I could do so was to avoid being compared to you. That is insane, Amber. I was never competing with you. I understand, she said quietly. That is what made things worse. You did not even try, but people still loved you. She wiped her eyes forcefully. I am the worst sister in the world. I destroyed your wedding. I cannot take it back. No, you cannot. We stood there in the cold, 3 feet apart and unbridgeable. Will you ever forgive me? She whispered. I do not know. I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not now. Today I am too furious and upset, and I need to return home to the person who genuinely shows up for me. I got in my car and drove away, seeing my childhood home fade in the rearview mirror. Before I even got on the freeway, my phone started vibrating with calls and texts from everyone most likely attempting to digest what had just transpired. I set it to silence. Jessica was waiting for me when I arrived home, even though it was past midnight. She took one glance at me and drew me into her embrace. Is it that bad? She asked. Worse, but better. I believe I have finally stated what I needed to say. I am proud of you. I am proud of me too. I moved back to look at her. Is your family still celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow? Of course. Mom is already inquiring when we will arrive. So that is our family now, I explained. The one that actually wants us. I could not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their expressions around the table, shock, disbelief, and Mom's shuddered look when she realized she could not change the story. I kept repeating Amber's confession on the porch, looking for sincerity in her tears. Had she meant it, or was it just another performance damage control to save her reputation as the golden child Jessica discovered me around 3:00 a.m., sitting on our balcony in the cold, wrapped in a blanket and looking at nothing? Are you unable to turn off your brain? She inquired, slipping onto the chair next to me. I keep thinking about what Amber said about my being the decent one. How does that make sense? They treated her like royalty my entire life. People's internal narratives do not always match reality, she said softly. She leaned across and held my hand. She most likely felt pressure to maintain that immaculate image. The dread of falling off a pedestal may be overwhelming. That does not excuse what she did. No, it does not, she agreed, but it might explain it. She softly squeezed my fingers. The question is, what do you want to happen next? I had been avoiding thinking about it. For so long, the encounter had been my primary aim, and I had made no other plans. What did happen next? Could I really move away from my family forever? Did I really want to? I do not know. I acknowledged. A part of me wants to never talk to them again, but another part. I stopped attempting to describe my feelings. I spent so many years trying to win their affection. Maybe I should show myself that I can live without it. You already exist without it, Jessica said gently. You have been doing that for years. Have I though, or have I simply been pretending secretly hoping they will wake up one day and see me? It was painful to make the disclosure. Every accomplishment, every milestone, a part of me was still acting for an audience that was not there. Jessica remained quiet for a bit, carefully selecting her words. You sobbed when we got engaged. Happy tears. You murmured. But I recall you saying something else. Maybe now they will take me seriously, you said. I had stated that I had forgotten, but then the recollection came pouring back. We had been at the restaurant where she proposed, champagne bubbles still tickling my nose when those words came out before I could stop them. I wanted them at our wedding because I thought it would finally prove I was worth showing up for. I explained slowly, the reality dawning on me as I spoke. But they did not arrive. And you know what? Regardless, the wedding was lovely. We were content anyway. I did not need them there to confirm my happiness. No, you did not, she agreed. So why is it still hurting so much? Because you are grieving, Jessica explained simply. You are mourning the family you should have had, the parents who should have celebrated both of their children equally, and the sister who should have been your greatest friend rather than your adversary. Michael, that is a big loss. You are permitted to experience it. I allowed myself to cry properly for the first time since leaving that house. Not angry or furious tears, but deep hurting sobs of real loss. Jessica supported me through everything without attempting to cure or improve anything but simply being present. When I eventually stopped drained and fatigued, she asked if I wanted hot chocolate. I nodded and she went inside. Through the glass door, I saw her walk around our kitchen, which we had designed together and filled with items that made us happy rather than those that were spectacular to others. A kitchen where we had entertained friends who genuinely cared about us, where we had cooked, laughed, and built a life. They had missed it all. And suddenly, sitting there covered in my blanket at 300 a.m., I knew it was their loss, not my own. Jessica reappeared with 2 glasses topped with whipped cream and chocolate shavings. She had even added the peppermint sticks I adored, which I found during our honeymoon at a small cafe in Bridgetown. I love you, I stated, for so many reasons, but right now especially for remembering the peppermint sticks. I pay attention, Jessica stated with a little smile. It is what people do when they love someone. Such a simple sentence, but it embodied everything my family had failed to achieve: paying attention, remembering, and showing up, the fundamental building blocks of love that I had been craving without even recognizing it. Your mom asked me something last week. Jessica continued, stirring her hot chocolate. She inquired whether your family had ever met me before the wedding. When I told her no, she looked very heartbroken. She said every parent would be anxious to meet the one who makes their child light up as you do when we talk about our life together. My throat clenched. She said what? Yes, she did, Jessica confirmed. She then explained that their loss was her gain, since she now has you as a son. She meant it too. My mother does not say anything she does not intend. I know, I said softly. I observed that about Janet within an hour of meeting her. She was warm yet honest, caring yet direct. Everything my own mother was not. They want to do a second reception for us, Jessica explained. Nothing major, just family and a few close friends, an opportunity to rejoice with those who genuinely care. My parents want to host it, perhaps in the spring when the weather is nicer. What are your thoughts? The concept should have seemed off somehow, like a consolation reward, but it did not. It seemed like a gift. "I think that sounds perfect," I commented. "Can we do it at that lakeside venue? The one with large windows?" "Already checked." She smiled. "They have availability in May." Of course she had. That is what partners do. They foresee needs, make arrangements, and show up every single time. We waited on the balcony until dawn began coloring the sky pink and gold. Something fundamental changed inside of me during those silent hours. The rage and hurt persisted, but they no longer felt like they were engulfing me from the inside out. They became something I carried rather than something that carried me. Jessica's Thanksgiving was everything that my family's celebration had not been. Yes, it was loud, but it was filled with laughter rather than anxiety. Her sister Hannah met me with a crushing embrace and an urgent need to view more wedding images. Her brother Logan attempted to teach me the family card game, which apparently everyone learns at the age of 6. Janet was concerned about whether I was eating enough, and Martin, Jessica's father, insisted on learning everything about my work. He was truly engaged in water conservation policies in a way that my own parents had never been. "So you are telling me that the algorithm you helped build saved Phoenix 42 million gallons of water in 10 months. Martin leaned forward, his eyes bright with eagerness. "That is extraordinary. How did you deal with seasonal change and usage patterns?" I described the process, warming to the subject as I usually did when someone was willing to listen. He posed insightful questions, questioned some of my assumptions in a way that made me think rather than feel defensive. And by the end of dinner, I had promised to give him links to our published research. "You have got a brilliant husband," Martin said to Jessica as we were clearing dishes. "I hope you know that." "I do," Jessica responded, catching my gaze across the table. "Trust me, I do." Later, despite Janet's protestations, she gently brought up my family situation. "Jessica mentioned that things were difficult with your parents during Thanksgiving," she remarked, scouring a roasting pan with more vigor than required. "I hope I'm not going too far, but I want you to know that whatever occurred does not affect anything here. We consider you family now. Not because you married Jessica, but because of who you are." I needed to set down the dish I was drying before I dropped it. "Thank you. That means more than you realize." "I am a mother," Janet stated simply. "I cannot picture my children treating you the way yours did. Hannah informed me what happened to the invitations. Is that your own sister?" She shook her head. "I will not talk poorly of someone I have never met, but I will say this: their inability to recognize your worth does not reduce yours. It merely shows their ignorance." "I am still processing all of it," I acknowledged. "Part of me wants to cut them off entirely. Part of me feels guilty for even thinking about it." "Guilt is a powerful tool," Janet explained, washing the pan and placing it on the drying rack, "especially when it has been used against you throughout your life. But here is something I learned while parenting 4 children. Sometimes love is not enough. People might harm us not because they do not love us, but because they do not know how to love us correctly, and we have the right to protect ourselves from it even if it comes from relatives. "My dad called yesterday," I said, "just checking in. He described it as uncomfortable. Neither of us knew what to say. Typical of the first talks after major revelations." She gave me another plate to dry. "The question is not whether it was comfortable," Janet told me. "The question is whether he is willing to perform the difficult effort of genuinely transforming. Words are simple. Consistent action is difficult." 3 days later, my father sent me an email, a lengthy one filled with apologies, realizations, and pledges to do better. He asked if we could actually discuss starting fresh. I said, "Maybe eventually, but I need time." He replied that he understood. Amber sent an Instagram message. I did not read it. I switched off alerts for the family group chat I had been re-added to, most likely at Dad's suggestion. Caleb issued a Career Connect request, which I denied. Mom did not contact me at all. It hurt less than I thought. My mother's silence became an explanation in and of itself. Days stretched into weeks, and while my father's weekly calls continued brief and circumspect, but present Mom was glaringly absent. I saw Mom in that house, reorganizing the same closets she had been reorganizing my whole life, holding her book club, attending her charity luncheons, and living in a world where painful realities could be ignored by sheer force of habit. Work became my shelter throughout those weeks. I immersed myself in a new project investigating drought patterns in the Midwest, thankful for challenges with clear data sets and simple answers. My co-worker, Megan, noted the increasing intensity. "You are here before me and leaving after me," she said one evening, sticking her head into my office about 7:00 p.m. "Is everything okay?" "Family stuff," I answered hazily. "Just needed the distraction." She sat across from my desk without invitation, which I usually enjoyed. "Do you want to talk about it?" Surprisingly, I did. I told her everything, the wedding, the invites, and the Thanksgiving confrontation. Megan listened without interrupting, her face changing from shock to fury to something resembling comprehension. "My sister and I did not speak for 4 years, she added as I finished. "Different reason. She borrowed money and never paid it back, then behaved like I was the culprit for bringing it up. But the dynamics were comparable. She was the favorite. I was an afterthought. Our parents were always on her side." "How was it resolved?" I asked. "It did not actually," she admitted. "She ultimately apologized, and we now have a polite relationship, but only on the surface. We will never be as close as we were as children. I had to mourn that connection and accept that the sister I desired no longer existed. Maybe it never existed in the way I recall." "Does it still hurt sometimes?" I asked quietly. Megan nodded. "Mostly on holidays or when I encounter other sisters who are also friends. But I have created my own family," Megan continued. "My spouse, our friends, and my chosen folks. They show up for me in ways that my blood kin never have." She arose and stretched. "Give yourself time to think about what you want things to look like in the future, and do not allow anyone to shame you into forgiving before you are ready." Her sentiments matched Janet's, reflecting common wisdom from women who had learned to set boundaries the hard way. I was curious how many individuals bore these scars, smiling during family events while slowly bleeding from invisible incisions. That weekend, Jessica and I had a dinner party. Nothing fancy, just 6 friends, decent wine, and the beef bourguignon dish I had been honing for months. Our friend Sophie brought her new girlfriend, and our neighbor Ben arrived with handmade bread that completely outperformed my store-bought rolls. We ate, joked, and played charades until midnight, and no one asked me about my career or why I had not been home in a while. "This is nice," I remarked to Jessica as we cleaned up afterward, both pleasantly tipsy and exhausted. "This feels like family." "It is family," she said, filling the dishwasher with somewhat less accuracy than usual. "We get to choose this. Blood does not have the monopoly on love." I considered this while I scrubbed the wine glasses by hand, watching soap bubbles catch the light. My parents had always regarded family as an obligation, something to be done regardless of the underlying problems. But what if family was more about connection, about showing up, paying attention, and creating room for each other's? Joy. Amber sent me an email on Tuesday morning, not through Instagram this time, but to my work address, indicating that she had looked up where I worked and obtained my contact information. The subject line was simply, "Please read this." I gazed at it for 30 minutes before opening it. "Michael, I understand you probably do not want to hear from me. I would not want to hear from myself either, but my therapist insists that I make restitution as part of my healing process. And while I realize this is ultimately for me, I hope it also helps you. I have been reflecting a lot on why I did what I did. The simple explanation is envy, but it is more nuanced than that. Growing up, I always felt the need to be flawless, Mom and Dad never stated it openly, but I internalized the message that my value was dependent on my accomplishments, good grades, nice clothes, the appropriate boyfriend, and the perfect wedding. It was all part of the scorecard I was striving to complete, to prove I had earned their affection. You did not appear to require that confirmation in the same way. You simply existed firmly in your own place. You did not care if you were not the star athlete or if your job did not impress their friends. And it somehow made you scary to me because if you could be adored without acting, what did that say about all of my performances? When your invitation arrived, I experienced a moment of terror. Your wedding was going to be the first, and it was going to be modest, private, and genuine, something mine was not. Mine was a large production for 300 individuals, most of whom I hardly knew. I had spent a year preparing it with Mom, and somewhere along the road it shifted from being about Caleb and me to demonstrating something to people whose opinions should not have mattered. I told myself that if I simply delayed everyone finding out about your wedding until after mine, I would be able to retain the illusion of going first, being first, and winning a competition that only existed in my mind. And then I promised myself I would come clean. But the more I waited, the tougher it became until it was simpler to simply pretend it never occurred. I understand that this does not solve anything. I realize I deprived you of having your family present on one of the most significant days of your life. I know I harmed you in a way that may be unforgivable. And I know I wounded Mom and Dad by having them miss it and then leading them to believe they did not receive the invites. I am now in therapy twice a week trying to figure out why I so strongly require external affirmation. Why do I perceive everything as a competition? Why can I not be pleased for others without making it about myself? It is difficult labor. I am not liking it, but I am doing it because I no longer want to be this person. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect you to answer my email, but I wanted you to know that I understand what I did. I realize it was wrong, and I genuinely, deeply apologize. I hope you are happy with Jessica. I hope your life in Portland fulfills all of your expectations. And I hope that someday maybe we might rekindle our relationship as siblings, even if it takes years, even if it never occurs. Amber. I read it 3 times, analyzing each phrase for sincerity, manipulation, and any resemblance to the sister I knew before everything turned complex. The remarks appeared sincere, but Amber had always been gifted with words. I sent it to Jessica without remark, then to Megan. After nearly an hour of hesitation, I forwarded it to my father. He responded within minutes. Michael, she is trying. That is all I can tell you. It is up to you to decide whether it is enough. Was she trying, or was this simply another ACT therapy speak performed in the service of her own rehabilitation, with no regard for the harm she had done? I could not tell. And the unknown was its own form of pain. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, a small package arrived at my doorstep. Inside was a wedding card unopened and addressed to my parents. One of 6 invitations. My father's message stated that he had discovered it while assisting Amber in cleaning out some storage boxes from the garage. She had stashed them all there, seemingly expecting they would be overlooked among the holiday decorations and old tax records. I showed Jessica. We admired the gorgeous calligraphy and the carefully crafted wording, asking my family to share our love. "Should we keep it?" she asked. "No," I said. "Let us put it in the album anyway as a reminder of what they missed of what we built without them." Christmas came and went without a visit to my hometown. New Year's too. My father phoned once a week and we had brief discussions about the weather and work, avoiding anything substantive. It was something, I guess maybe. In February, Amber left me a voicemail. She was in treatment dealing with her difficulties. She stated she understood if I never wanted to speak with her again, but she was trying to improve. She hoped I was happy. I was. In March, Mom fell and shattered her hip. Dad called his voice raspy from weariness, asking if I could come help. Before driving down, I gave it a lot of thought, more than I probably should have. Not because I had forgiven anything, but because I was choosing to show up after years of not being asked properly. When I came into that hospital room, Mom shed real tears, not the fake sort she had always been so skilled at. She apologized for not being the mother I needed. She said she had been thinking about all the ways she had failed me while lying in that hospital bed with nothing to do except ponder. Maybe she meant it. Maybe it was the painkillers talking. I did not know, and I astonished myself by realizing I did not have to know right away. "I am here," I told her. "That is enough for today." Amber turned up that evening. We sat on opposite sides of Mom's bed, not speaking directly to one another, but also not ignoring each other. Small steps.